Good morning and welcome to the fifth in our Shift, Sustain, and Succeed series. We welcome anyone to join us each Tuesday and Thursday as we do our best to find you answers to the most pressing questions our businesses have in navigating COVID-19 and the situation that surrounds it. As we have begun the transition to phase yellow, employers may be well prepared for the return to work, yet others are left scrambling. We've heard different opinions on what's best, masks or no masks, soap or sanitizer. So today I've invited Kurtis Bell, the owner of ServiceMaster by Bell, to join us and help answer some questions about our options and most importantly, how we protect our employees and our businesses in being compliant. As even some of this guidance has changed over the last 2 months, I remind you that Kurtis will be helping us based on the information that is available to us today. If you have follow-up questions or additional questions during the session, please submit them in the Zoom chat and we'll do our best to answer those, to include them at the end or to do follow-up. And of course, as always, we'll be including resources. We are taping today's session, so if you missed something and need to go back or you'd like to share what you've learned today, you will be able to visit our website and see the recording. So with that, Kurtis, thank you for joining us today. We'll go ahead and get started. So let's answer a basic question. What's the difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting?
So Susan, that's a great question. Cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing are three terms that are being thrown around a lot right now. A lot of people kind of interchange disinfecting and sanitizing, but they're not necessarily the same thing. So we'll just start with cleaning. Cleaning is kind of the basis of all this. You have to clean before you disinfect or sanitize. Cleaning just generally removes germs, other dirt, organic soilings from a surface or an object. So cleaning is the removal of soiling or dirt or germs. Disinfecting actually kills germs, bacteria, viruses, other things like that on surfaces or objects. Then sanitizing just lowers the number of those germs, whether that's bacteria, viral spores, etc., on a surface or object. So sanitizing can be achieved by disinfecting or by cleaning. So not necessarily one or the other.
Great. Well, based on what you've learned about COVID-19 and how it lives on surfaces, how should we prepare our workspaces for our employees and the customers that are returning? What steps should we be taking?
So everything that the CDC has kind of pointed out shows that the current COVID-19 virus can live, up to 3 days on plastics and stainless, other surfaces like that. So a lot of people are recommending, like, if you had a business that's been shut down for over 7 days, you should be pretty much safe to go in and just do your normal cleaning to prepare for opening. There are some other things that you're going to do, as far as keeping that social distance, protecting yourself and your employees as well as your customers too, trying to make the business experience as touch-free as possible. I saw some places even on nicer days just propping their doors open. Just a simple touch like that can be a real nice thing right now to help limit your exposures.
Great. Well, what if we have an employee or customer who is symptomatic, or the worst case scenario is diagnosed with COVID? How should that change what we need to do in our business?
So I guess knowing whether customers are positive or not, for this certain strain could be kind of tough. Obviously, if you have, yourself or an employee become symptomatic or have a positive diagnosis, just remove that person, whether it's you or another employee, from that workspace as soon as possible. At that point, then it's time to look at a full top to bottom cleaning and disinfecting of the space. So oftentimes there's a lot of companies that, like mine included, that in the post-exposure world aren't going in until 24 hours after. So we have to let the space sit for up to 24 hours. That just is an added layer of protection for us, and that will give plenty of time for any like the droplets that could be airborne to fall out onto the surfaces.
Oh, great. That's interesting and new information for me. The wait time is good to know. Can you tell us about some of the various disinfecting products, how we properly use them, And
Yeah,
what if
sure.
you run out? So, kind of the follow-up question is, I ran out of my products. Now what do I do? So talk to us about the products available.
So, I mean, I have different access somewhat to products than the basic consumer, just being in my line of work. I know in our line of work, disinfectants for probably the last 3 months, 2 to 3 months, have been very, very tough to come by. They're starting now to be more of a supply as manufacturers are catching back up. But for the average, average consumer, things like disinfectant wipes are nice. There's, obviously your Clorox and Lysol disinfectants in the spray bottles that you can get, as well as, like I said, your ready-to-use wipes, or if you do run out and you have some basic products laying around, some like isopropyl alcohol at 70% or more strength will work as a disinfectant, as well as just bleach alone too. So if you're doing that, the CDC has put out guidelines on that, as well as Clorox themselves have put out a handy little thing on their website, which Susan has linked up there for you, as well as some screenshots. So again, I don't know, like if you can see on my screen, Susan also has it highlighted there. There's a nice little part on these labels with a bunch of the fine print that says EPA Reg No, and that's your EPA registration number. So every disinfectant is regulated by the EPA. The EPA also has this list N that Susan has linked on the upper right-hand side of the screen. So what you need to do is you need to find your EPA regulation number, type it into the search thing there, it'll pop it up. It may say like, Clorox disinfecting wipes instead of like mine, which are the Clorox Sentiva wipes. It may not say the exact product name, but as long as the numbers match, you're good. And then it'll give you a contact time on there. So that contact time is the amount of time that it needs to remain wet on the surface. So like if I'm disinfecting like my mouse and it says 4 minutes for the Clorox wipes, I need to sit there and make sure that I wipe my mouse and keep the mouse wet, like visibly damp for 4 minutes. If I don't do that, I can't claim the kill claim here of 99.9% of viruses and bacteria. So, I mean, and also too, like if my mouse was dirty, I need to clean it off first. My mouse is rather clean today, so like I could just disinfect as it is now. So that's one thing to keep in mind too. If you have soiling like on a phone headset, those are always, kind of hot spots because you're pressing them up against your face all day. So the oils from your hair and skin, and as well as dead skin cells congregate on the handset of the phone receiver. Keyboards are another thing too. I mean, I have a white keyboard, so it shows every little bit of dirt. So I need to clean that before I even begin the disinfecting process.
Great. Yeah.
Sorry, we
Kurtis,
tangented a little bit there.
I'm sure that's super. I'm sure you, like me, have been amazed in the last couple months as you really start to realize how many things you touch a day as we go throughout. So in our offices, from when Kurtis and I prepared for this, we were talking a little bit about even, pens, perhaps having pens and letting people take the pen with them rather than thinking about disinfecting. So a lot of things to look at around our offices. So great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about PPE? I know the sanitizing is more your expertise, but what have you learned about PPE, about masks and gloves and suits, and when we should be using them?
So I guess times where I'm using them at work are going to differ from times where you as a non-professional cleaner are going to be using them. So just in general, the recommendation from the state and I guess even federal level here through the CDC is that some sort of face covering is helpful right now, whether that is like the little neck gaiters that people are pulling up, cloth mask, like a little paper mask, or even these guys here, the little N95 mask. So also too, it should be noted, the N95 mask, if you have them, they'll work. They're kind of not one of those things that you need to run out and buy. They're better left for the people like in the field that are going to be definitely needing those. You know, your first responders, your professional cleaners, medical staff, etc. So just the basic like cloth face mask will work, you know, will satisfy the guidelines set forth. So glove wise too, gloves are kind of one of those weird things. I see tons of people walking around with gloves. I've even saw people walking around with gloves apparently soaked in hand sanitizer. It's an interesting move, but gloves are one of those things where they're only as good as, you know, kind of your brain is. You know, if you touch something that's contaminated with a glove on, that doesn't give you, you know, carte blanche then to just like eat something right out of that same hand with the glove on. You know, the gloves are things that protect your hands. They're not like a, you know, invincibility cape. So also it should be noted too, like if you're wearing gloves and like say you go to the ATM, push the buttons, wear those same gloves, and then like open a door, you're potentially moving whatever was on that ATM to the new surface, the door handle that you're grabbing at that point. So gloves are one of those things where to be used properly are kind of a quick single use type thing, not a throw on one set of gloves and wear them all day, because at that point you're just kind of, you know, passing things on from surface to surface, as opposed to just going with your bare hands, at which point, you know, you're going to be more cognizant of what you touch if you're not, you know, using a gloved hand, just your bare hand, and then you can wash your hands very effectively as opposed to, you know, washing a gloved hand.
Great. Hey, Kurtis, I skipped over with it when we were talking about the disinfecting. You just shared with me before the call that the Clorox site. So I have that up too. I don't know if you want to speak briefly about making your own disinfecting solution if you can't find product in the store.
Yeah, sure. So if you run out of your disinfectant at home, can't find any sort of disinfecting thing in the store, but happen to have some bleach for your laundry or whatnot, you can, bleach can be effective. So you have to have a diluted solution of at minimum 1,000 parts per million of sodium hypochlorite, which is the active ingredient in most bleaches. If you look at your bleach label, you know, it can tell you that percentage, and then, you know, you can do the math, or you can just go to the Clorox site and they list all of their products that have it. You know, if you have a product that's not Clorox, it's maybe, you know, store brand bleach, you may have to go through and kind of do the legwork yourself, which at that point also too, if you, it's the Public Health Department of Ontario put up a really nice conversion thing. So if you have your own bleach at home, just Google Public Health Ontario bleach and it'll pop right up. Put in your concentration of your bleach product, the percentage of sodium hypochlorite that will be listed on your label, as well as then the desired concentration, and then it spits out how many ounces, milliliters, or et cetera that you need to put in whatever rate you want to use to your water mixture to get the proper dilution. So then that type of thing, you need 1 minute contact time with the bleach solution. And then also be sure on the Clorox site, they do a very good job of some do's and don'ts with your bleach solution and bleach usage. So make sure you read all those. You know, wear gloves for prolonged exposure. Don't touch bleach directly if it's straight from the container. Make sure you have ventilation and don't mix it with anything like an alcohol or a vinegar, thinking that you're going to boost the cleaning power, because you're probably just going to create like a dangerous chemical reaction or even a gas. So
just gonna say, don't become a chemist during this time.
Yeah.
Leave that to the professionals. I'll remind everyone that we do have a resource page on our website. So anything that Kurtis has mentioned, I know Tess is capturing those, and the resources we've already shared, we'll make sure that those are up there so that you can get to those and anything else that Kurtis adds today. Great. Well, do you see any mistakes that people are making when they're using protection? You talked a little bit about gloves and wearing them from place to place.
Yeah, I mean, there's mistakes made every day. One thing, the biggest thing I see is people when they put on their mask, they begin to then fiddle with it or adjust it. So the assumption would be when you put on a clean mask, it's clean when you put it on. Once you like get it out of the package or place it on your face, and it comes in contact with the outside world, it is now a soiled mask. So then to touch that mask, you're potentially contaminating other things then, whether you have contaminants on your hand that you're touching the mask with, or whether there's contaminants on the mask that you're spreading to your hand. So once the mask goes on, the only time you should be touching it is to take it off. So at that point, even too, you need, to take off your mask, you should wash your hands thoroughly, take off your mask, not touching the actual mask part, but touching your ear loops or however the attachment method is. Discard the mask, whether it's, a disposable mask, if it's a reusable mask, it goes right to the laundry. And then as soon as you're done with that, wash your hands thoroughly again. So that's, the best way to take your mask off, put your mask on. Again, too, with the glove thing, real big, just don't wear gloves everywhere type of person. I would, in my life, I don't wear gloves really too much unless it's absolutely deemed necessary, like on an actual job site, or if I'm using like, a product that requires PPE of that nature. So much rather just wash your hands, it kind of keeps you cognizant of what you're touching too. So those are the biggest PPE mistakes that I'm seeing. Just people adjusting masks constantly, people just wearing gloves everywhere, touching everything with gloves. And then when they take off their gloves, not taking them off the right way. So OSHA has some really great resources on how to take off your gloves. You essentially want to go rubber to rubber, never rubber to skin when you're taking off your glove. And because if you end up touching like your ungloved hand underneath the glove with, the glove, you've defeated the entire purpose of the glove. So you can check out OSHA's website. They have some really good tutorials on how to don and doff your PPE, whether that be mask, gloves, etc., eye protection, whatever. It's all listed there. Really good resources there. They do a much better job than I at explaining that.
Great. Well, you made a great suggestion to me about storing your masks. Some of us have a few because we're, maybe have them in different cars or moving around a bit, about storing your masks in little Glad containers so that they're reusable. Can you explain that to our listeners?
Yeah. So what Susan and I had a discussion about, and, I can be guilty at times too, you just hang the mask like in your car because we're required to wear a mask into businesses in the state of Pennsylvania here. So you just take the same mask that has been in your car for the last week and a half for 2 weeks, and then you throw that thing on, and then you just walk in. So it satisfies the regulations that are out currently, but as far as like good PPE usage, that's not good PPE usage, because your mask is just out in, an unclean environment. Your vehicle, as much as you may clean it, it's still, there's potential for contamination, I guess is what we're getting at. So for the reusable fabric mask, the recommendation is to just launder those typically, like launder those normally. Run it through your standard wash cycle. You can go on gentle or whatever, so you don't mess up your elastic. But then as soon as those come out of the dryer, if you were to take those and then place them into like a Ziploc bag, you could do that, but then you end up burning up a bunch of Ziploc bags every day, when you switch your mask, as you should. So, if you take your mask off at lunchtime to eat, you should not put that same mask on. You should open up a new mask, put on the new mask, because it is a clean mask at that point. Likewise, if you're a smoker, you go out on your smoke break, you pull down your mask. At that point, you should just take it off and then put on a new one after your break. So doing it this way, which is the technical correct way to do it, you'll see that you'll burn through a lot of masks in a day. So having just baggies full of masks may not be the best thing. Whereas if you take a Glad container or like one of those little reusable, plastic containers that we all have floating around in our cabinets somewhere, wash it thoroughly with your dish soap of choice, make sure you dry it really well. Then you can pack your mask in there, your clean mask. So you can kind of have that as an option, just to have many clean masks available throughout your day.
Great. Thank you. I got out my Glad containers and put each one put a mask in each one, so and can clean those and reuse them. Thanks for that advice. Do you have any advice on or information on the supply of PPE and sanitizing products? Are you seeing a shortage, and should we be rationing what we have?
I mean, I would be cautious, I guess, about your usage, of course, because there's everything is still kind of in a slight short. The the best products, well, I guess when I say best, the fastest working products for us in the commercial world are still fairly scarce. There's, some people have a stock of them. I mean, I have a stock of my standard products that we use on a day-to-day basis, but it's one of those things where if people continue hoarding, or even just the sheer amount of like professional cleaning firms that are out there versus the amount of disinfectant manufacturers that are out there, they just can't keep up with the volume at which people are buying. So you kind of got to get lucky still in our line, or settle for a product that may have a longer wet contact time, a slower working product, which will still be just as effective as long as you can sit there and monitor it for up to 10 minutes sometimes. So from what I'm seeing, there's still a little bit of a shortage. It's getting better, definitely. Manufacturers are starting to catch up with all the backlog orders and everything, so that's good. On the home front here, from what I gather, there's still like wipes and stuff being, that are available for purchase. We've been able to run into a few here and there, just to keep around the office and some of the vehicles that, our crews are using and such. So those are coming back in. It's just one of those things where if you do see them, there's probably going to be a restriction on them, where they recommend you not buying more than one or two packages at a time.
Great. Well, all that said, a lot of us are cleaning our spaces. Hopefully we're all cleaning our spaces, but when is it really time to call in the professionals and get extra help?
So I would say, anytime you're uncomfortable or you're unsure, that's why we're here. We're here to help out. We're here to answer questions. So Susan put up all my information there. If you have questions about, hey, what should I do? My business is reopening, or my business has reopened, but I'm kind of at a loss for what to do. Shoot me an email or give me a call. My office number's there, as well as my email address. So I can, I'm here to offer any advice that I can, as well as, if you just say, hey, look, I'm in over my head, I don't want to even mess with it, give us a call. We can talk about it, and then we can see if it's something that we can help you out with there as far as preparing your workspace, whether it's to reopen just in general, whether, it's, some sort of like recurring cleaning and disinfecting, just to really make sure that you're taking all the best steps in ensuring a safe workplace for yourself, your employees, and, any customers if you deal with walk-in traffic.
Great. Well, that ends the questions that Kurtis and I had been prepared for. We haven't had anything come up in the chat. If any listeners do have additional questions, we'd be happy to take them now. But we are excited to see businesses reopening, but have certainly concerned that everyone does it right, that we keep everyone safe. We hope that all of you listening, if you're back in the office, that you're feeling safe, and let us know if there's anything you need from the chamber. We have found that there are some sources of the homemade masks around still. So if anyone's in need of those, we'll be happy to kind of direct you to where we know they're either for sale, or a few are even currently making them available by donation. So we did get a question. Are masks currently required in the workplace? Kurtis, do you want to take that?
I mean, from what I saw, the recommendation, or I guess the last word I heard is that, you should be wearing your mask when you enter a business. So like in our business here, like I'm in my office right now. So as you can see, I'm not wearing a mask currently. When I interact with customers here, we mask up. And then when we're out and about too, we mask up too.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it is a strong, strong recommendation from the governor's office and from the Dr. Levine that we do wear masks, certainly anytime we're interacting or crossing paths with others. But if, like Kurtis said, in your private office, you don't need to wear them. But I did hear Dr. Levine say last week, it's a strong, strong recommendation. So whether or not you'll actually, it will be enforced by any local law enforcement, I kind of doubt it. I think it's probably more an issue of kind of reputation and trust of your customers and your employees. So it may be something for our businesses to work through, particularly if you have a lot of employees and you have ones that are agreeable and ones that are not. Those are great conversations to be having about just respecting each other and what's important to us. So thanks for submitting that, Martin. So again, thank you for joining us. We will be having another session of Shift, Sustain, Succeed on Thursday. We'll be talking with Alan McBride from Komatsu, and Saxon Doherty will be joining us. We're going to be talking about connecting in the workplace, how we keep our teams working and functioning well and communicating well. So you can register today. We'll get together again next Tuesday for PR and marketing as we all navigate our way through how to get our message out to our customers and to the community about what we're doing in our businesses and organizations. So join us for those. We'll be scheduling more out from there. We'd love your recommendations.